generation. All those guys on screen, they're fine and good, but this is the real Batman. Let's hear it for the one and only Kevin Conroy! Hey, everybody. That's all yours. Welcome, guys. How are you? Great. Happy to be here. How's Des Moines treating you?
The people here are so wonderful. Everyone's been really sweet.
Okay, how are they really treating you?
No, really. Everyone's been great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I concur with what he said.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. We do appreciate your time this weekend. And I know I'm especially looking forward to one of the biggest announcements recently, The Killing Joke.
Yeah. But you will not be disappointed. It looks beautiful, and it's, Bruce Timm wrote and is producing it. Mark, Hamil, and I are doing the voices. So it's really all the creative talent from the original show, and it looks beautiful. And the story is terrific.
It's surprising that DC would go ahead and greenlight an R-rated cartoon.
Yeah, I know. I was amazed. But I don't know how you can do that story without having it be R-rated, They just didn't want to water it down.
Now, have you seen the final product?
A lot of it. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Do they go as far as the comic has?
Yeah.
Or they do?
No, it's terrific.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And there's not much of the voice cast now. Lauren, are you a part of this voice cast?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad.
I can't wait to see it, though. I'm very excited about it, because those are all my old compatriots and colleagues, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait for it either. And we got a few people waiting in line here. I immediately rushed to the front of the line. Let's start with this young lady here.
Hi.
You have the best hat, by the way.
It's a Nightwing hat.
If you could do only one more comic book adaptation, what would it be?
You go first.
Well, a very good friend of mine wrote the latest Nightwing series. His name's Kyle Higgins, and he wrote just a wonderful series of books. And for many years, he's been talking about turning that into an animated series, which would be wonderful. And he said when he wrote it, because he grew up with our show, he said when he wrote it, he heard my voice in his head, which was kind of fun. So he would like to see that actually happen and turn that into a show.
That's a hard one for me because Killing Joke is what I would have said 6 months ago, but now that's been done. I think what would be fun to do, and I hope they do, is did you do the Arkham games at all? That trilogy is so incredible. The arc of those stories is so incredible. I was hoping, and I'm still hoping, that they will figure out a way to add on to that, to have it segue into some new game. Because it was so much fun building those games. And the way that story ended was so dramatic. I really hope that they'll manage to evolve that into something else. Sure.
Are you a gamer? Did you play as yourself?
Oh, yeah. No, I think, you're riding to ride with Batman like that through the Gotham landscape. It's just so beautiful.
It was incredible games.
Yeah, hi. In Batman, the Brave and the Bold, you were not Batman.
Hey, you.
Robin. But you both came back. Lauren, you came as Hal Jordan, and you were the Phantom Stranger in Chill of the Night. What is it like to kind of return to that universe, but not be Batman and Robin?
Well, it just wasn't the same. No, it is weird. You're sort of visiting a world that you were so central to, and you're coming as a guest. But they did a great job with it. What did you think?
Well, I love working with Andrea.
Yeah, any opportunity to work with Andrea.
Yeah, so she made that just a wonderful experience. But it was a totally different show in the same way the Adam West series was very much of a spoof. Batman Brave and the Bold was very much a spoof, very heightened reality, whereas our show, they tried to make it as cinematic as possible. They tried to make as much as a movie as possible. So it was very different.
Chance to Dream, I loved doing, because I had so many different roles to play in it. And Mask of the Phantasm, I think, is the best Batman movie. The story, you get the whole backstory on why Bruce Wayne evolves into this character. The struggle he goes through internally with his promise to his parents, his struggle to want to lead a normal life. It's a really beautifully written story. So from an actor's point of view, it was just a lot of fun to act all that.
And for me, it was Old Wounds, because I got to play both Robin and Nightwing in that episode. Robin in the flashbacks. And the film Sub-Zero, I loved making. And, of course, Robin's Reckoning. So it would be a tie between those three things.
Yes, Sub-Zero was beautiful. That's a beautiful night. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
When you guys first started making the TV shows and everything, did you guys, what I've heard with a lot of Q&As recently is when you're the characters, you kind of start to feel like them. Did you guys ever feel like Batman and Robin, as yourselves, or take on the persona personally, or feel more depth in it, I guess?
I think that would be really scary. I don't think so. I have to say, when we first started doing the show, I don't think any of us knew what we were getting into in terms of how big it would be, what a landmark show it would be, what it would evolve into. And I remember, because the way the process is done, we do the recordings first. So we would get the scripts first, and we record them like a radio play, all in a studio together. And then those recordings are sent off to artists to paint. So we're the first step in the process. So when the show was just being developed, we hadn't seen anything except sketches of what the character's going to look like. So we're all kind of using our imaginations and just acting. And we didn't really see any real footage until 6 months down the line when it came back from the artists. And we went in to do the ADR process, which is the syncing up of the soundtrack to the visual track. And the first time I was in an ADR session was at Warner Brothers, and it was a full screen. It came up on the full screen. I was in an ADR session with Mark Hamill, and Mark and I were both in there, and I looked at him and I said, "Did you have a clue this is what we were doing?" Because this beautiful color came up, these rich colors, and the Shirley Walker music, this full symphony score, and these dramatic graphics. And I looked at Mark and I said, "This is beautiful. This is unbelievable." He said, I had no idea it was going to be this big. This is great. So we were just all acting as actors, too. You inhabit the characters, you play the role. But I don't think any of us really understood how big it was going to be.
And during those 6 month periods when we were waiting for the show to come back, we would be doing other things. We would be doing other roles. So only now, seeing that this has gone over 2 generations, do we really realize how incredible this whole thing has turned out.
Thank you.
Sure.
You don't use that as an excuse to get out of chores around the house. Your wife tells you to do dishes. No, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, damn it. I don't do the dishes. I still do the dishes anyway.
Out of all of the villains that Batman and Robin have come across, which one is your favorite and why?
Well, for me, it's easy. It's always been the Joker. And it's just because Mark Hamill and I have such a really wonderful working relationship. He's a hugely talented guy. He's got a kind of an insane imagination. He's a very smart person. And he inhabits the character when he does it. I wish the audience, I often have said this, I wish people in the audience could see what he does in the booth, because he becomes Joker. He gets so involved physically when he's acting that he practically devours the microphone. I mean, that what you hear in his voice, you see in his face when he's recording. It's really wonderful. And he's the kind of actor, and Andrea Romano, who does the casting, is really good at hiring people like this. He's the kind of actor who's really generous. He knows there's a wonderful secret in acting that you're only as good as the people you're working with. The better the other people are, the better they make you. So you want them to be good. You want to give to the other actors. But there, like in all communities, there are generous people and there are selfish people. And there are a lot of actors with big egos who tend to be very selfish. And they just take and take and take. And they're no fun to work with. And so the work is never as good. The wonderful thing about Andrea is she doesn't tend to hire those actors. She goes for the people that she knows are generous and that she knows will feed the situation. And Mark is he's just so definitively a generous person to be in a booth with. He gives you so much that you just can't help but give back. So I would have to say Mark.
I think it was a huge thrill to work with Michael and Sarah, and a huge thrill to work with Roddy McDowell.
Yeah.
Man. I had seen him, he'd been a kid in the movies in the 1940s, so that was a huge thrill.
Yeah.
And John Glover was just fantastic, and I loved working with him, especially on an episode called If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich?, where we go through a maze. It was a terrific episode, so that would be my voice. In addition to Mark Hamill.
Yeah. And Paul Williams.
Paul Williams is the Penguin.
I mean, think about all the villains. I mean,
he was amazing. Oh my God, yes.
And John Glover, we have such a history. We did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream at the Old Globe Theater, where he did Benedict and I did Claudio. And then we did a production of King Lear, where he was Edmund and I was Edgar. We played brothers. Or no, he was Edgar and I was Edmund. And then we did a mini-series called George Washington with Barry Bostwick, where we were both heroes. And then we did the Kennedy mini-series, where I played Teddy Kennedy. So I've done 4 different big projects with John. I've known him for 40 years. And so when he came into this, it was like, oh my God, can I ever get rid of you? You know? No, he's a wonderful actor to work with. So it's an interesting question, because a lot of Batman is defined by the villains. People think of it as Batman and Robin and defined by those characters. But it's really about these incredible villains. And we haven't even touched on the females. I mean, the female villains have been amazing. Harley
Adrienne
Quinn.
Barbeau.
Adrienne Barbeau is Catwoman. I mean, these have been wonderful performances. So it's really hard to pick.
So maybe you should re-ask the question, which villains don't you like?
Yeah, I know.
Caesar Romero. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just closing my eyes and trying to picture that. And Robin, you sound just the same. You're totally different. It's weird. But I guess my question would be: have you guys had the opportunity to actually, like, so because you guys have been having these roles for so long and been so definitive, even though you're just the voices, have you had the opportunity to actually meet some of the live action actors and be like, yeah, you fans like me better?
They have cool voices that
I think the question is, have the live action actors ever had the opportunity to meet the real Batman and Robin? No, I'm kidding. No, I've never met them. Have you? No.
Okay.
So in the Killing Joke comics, we saw Barbara Gordon, obviously, but we didn't see Batgirl. And in the trailer for the Killing Joke, we saw Batgirl and Barbara Gordon. Can you elaborate on why they decided to bring in Batgirl for the Killing Joke adaptation?
I'm a little nervous about saying anything specific about what you're going to see in the Killing Joke. We signed these NDAs, these non-disclosure agreements, and they're very strict about them. And I know I can tell you that it's coming out, that it exists, and that I did the voice in it, and that Mark's in it. I can't really tell you anything else. I feel nervous about saying anything else about it, except I've done the ADR on it, so I've already seen most of it, and it is unbelievable how good it is. So I know you won't be disappointed. It's a wonderful film. I don't think I should go into creative decisions, choices like that, until it comes out.
And these NDA things, it's on every project we do now.
Yeah.
So we're constantly being asked, what did you do? What's coming out? Well, I did a video game, but I can't talk about it. It's coming out, but I can't sign an NDA. I couldn't talk about Arkham Knight for like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. So, can't say anything specific.
Thank you.
What's your favorite humanizing moment for your character? I know mine is in Justice League Unlimited when Batman stays with Ace until she dies.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm a dog person. So, I loved that. I love that. What is your most favorite human?
When I punched you.
And I was so good to him for so long. Ungrateful little. No, I think that Ace moment is really humanizing.
Mr. Conroy, Mr. Lester, how are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. That's a pretty good accent.
Thanks so much.
Kevin,
Brilliant.
Brilliant. I think we can all agree here that you are the definitive Batman.
Hey, thank you.
Woo! The biggest fan I've met is my wife, and she's vicariously asking the question through me. And if you could say hi, Misha, that would be great.
Hi, Misha. Get in the bat cave. I've got a surprise for you.
You just made a whole year. Thank you. So the question is for both of you, obviously given time and age, those aside, how do you guys feel the voices of Robin and Batman have evolved over the years?
Well, that's an interesting question because part of the challenge for me, and I'll be curious to hear what you say, has been to not have it change, is to be consistent over 24 years and keep it. Are you an actor or in the business?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Actors know that a lot of the challenge is keeping something fresh, is keeping it alive. When you do 8 shows a week, keeping it real, keeping it spontaneous, making it always seem like it's the first time you've done it. When you're doing a role over 24 years, not letting it fall into a cliche, not letting it become unexciting. You know what I mean? Keeping it fresh. So keeping it consistent, keeping it true to the voice that was established in '92 has been a real challenge for me. And working with Andrea is great because she started out as an actress in college. So she knows how actors think and work. And she's great at bringing you back to the character, to keeping it real. So for me, it's been keeping it consistent and keeping it alive has been the challenge over all this time. What do you think?
I love the transition from Robin to Nightwing, and I'm sorry they didn't do more of those episodes, but that was a tremendous transition. And what I did was I modeled it after him. I thought, instead of being this guy up here asking all the questions, now I was this guy down here like he was, because he was his own superhero. So that was a fun transition to make, and I hope one day they'll revisit that. And that actually is something you all can facilitate by going on social media and saying, bring the show back with the original people, and they listen. I mean, they do. They listen to that. I remember going to the first Star Trek convention ever, and William Shatner was up on stage, and he was very bitter. He said, this new film, Star Wars, they had done a Star Trek, and everybody was like, yay! So people started to write letters and insist that a Star Trek movie, and I think that really made it, and it became a huge franchise. So you could bring us back.
Sure.
Of all the women that have ever been in Batman's life, who do you think he's ever had the strongest connection with romantically? Who do you think he can maybe have a future with? You know, from Talia, Vicky Vale, Catwoman, Andrea Beaumont, Wonder Woman, Zatanna. Who do you think he could maybe have like a future with? Like maybe, if any, at all, in your opinion?
I think that Andrea Beaumont was the closest, which is part of what I liked about Mask of the Phantasm so much, is that she really touched a place in him that no one else had touched. And he felt so vulnerable, you know, and exposed emotionally. And so for an actor, that was just fun to play. But I think the character came closest. He asked his parents, the spirit of his parents, to release him from his pledge because of that. I don't know how much more committed you can get than that. So I really think that was the closest for him.
Now we're talking about a costume.
Hey! Great costume.
If you could do any other character in like the DC universe, which one would you think you'd do?
It's hard for me because, you know, Batman is... Yeah. No, people ask me that all the time, and I think, well, what do you do after Batman? I mean, my God, he's like the guy.
And I would say, actually, I'm not kidding, it was being facetious, but I would say the same answer, but not as Bruce Wayne Batman, but when Nightwing becomes Batman. I would like to make that transition. That would be really fun.
It was fun doing old Bruce Wayne in Batman Beyond. That was fun. And getting into the mentality of that the weight of that age, and the paternal instinct that came out in dealing with Cherry McGinnis. I hope that they revisit that in maybe, you know, a video game or something like that. Because old Bruce was fun to play. Okay.
Kind of stole my question. I was going to ask about Batman Beyond. But here's another question. What other Batman story would you want to see kind of be rated R?
Wow. Here's a terrible secret about Kevin Conroy. You probably know a lot more about the Batman universe than I do. When I got this role, they had to explain to me who the character was. Literally. Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Andrea Romano, I went into an audition. They said, well, what do you... I didn't even know it had never been made into a cartoon. I just assumed that it had been an animated series already. I said, Batman, hasn't that been done? And they said, no one's ever done it. I was a New York actor. I was in LA. I was doing a series. My agent sent me over to Warner Brothers to meet them. I walked in and did a cold audition. I had never done an animated voice before. And they said, I said, well, the only exposure I've had is the Adam West show from the 60s. And they said, no, that's not it. I said, isn't it Zip, Bow, Pop? They went, no. And he said, no, it's think film noir. Think the 40s New York. Think dark. Think, a kid who's watched his parents get killed, and he spends his life avenging their deaths, and he lives in the shadows, and he's got this dual personality, and he's never resolved this torture of his youth. And I said, you're telling the Hamlet story. I said, this is heavy stuff. And he said, yeah, well, no one's ever said that before, but yeah, I guess it is. This is like a classic archetypal Shakespearean tragedy. So I just used my theater training and put myself into that head, and I got into this very dark place and came up with this voice. And as I did it, I saw them all running around the booth. And I thought, well, either I've done something really bad or something really good, because I hit a nerve. I know I hit a nerve. And they came out and said, well, we've seen about almost over 600 people, and how would you like to do the part? And so it's a terrible thing when people ask me questions.
They asked you right there, they said right there you had the part?
Pretty much.
Wow.
And you probably know more about a lot of the stories than I do. Isn't that terrible?
Oh, you're the definitive Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, jeez, my stomach's growling. Yeah, I'm hungry. Dang it, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, wait, no. What, in terms of acting, what are the...
I think he's nervous.
Sorry. What are the most important qualities that you think an actor should have? This is for both of you, by the way.
You mean in preparing a role? Is that what you mean?
Okay, let's roll that. Or in general.
First of all, you need to spend a lot of time preparing. So acting is not something that just people do flying by the seat of their pants. I mean, some people do, but most prepare. So an actor who prepares, and there's actually a book called that, An Actor Prepares. So an actor prepares and does a lot of thinking about the character and how the character is living and the background of the character. That's very, very important. And number two, to leave yourself open for the magic to happen at the spur of the moment. So you do all this preparation, but then you don't close it off and not allow something to come in that's magical that happens in the moment. And if you can do both those things, those are the two qualities that really make a great actor.
So you're pretty much the voice director's puppet.
No, I think I said the opposite.
To relate to something that Loren said, I trained at Juilliard to go into the theater, and that was my background. And a roommate that I had for a couple of years was Robin Williams. And
my hero.
Yeah, wonderful, incredible, brilliant performer. The thing about Robin, relating to what you were saying, if you watched him perform, you thought that he was just this sort of savant of inspirational characters that came out of the blue, that he just went to, bing, 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 like a mental computer. What he really did, though, was hone each of those characters. He worked each of those characters. He had a library of characters in his head. And in the middle of the night, because our bedrooms had half walls, so I could hear, because we were students, we didn't have a real home. And I could hear in his room, "Mommy, Mommy, can I get up now? Darling, go back to bed." I mean, there'd be all these characters coming out of his room, and I thought, there's a family living next door. And it was all Robin, because he was developing all these characters in different accents, different characters, and he did it all the time. He was always working. He was always thinking of stuff. So preparation is so much of everything. Nothing is accidental. And then he would do these incredibly improvisational performances, but he was drawing on a catalog of characters that he had already worked out. And then the other thing, I think, the most important thing in acting, I think, is listening. You have to listen. If you're really open and really listening, it will totally affect what you do and how you respond.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi. Well, for both of you, thank you very much for your work. My only question, when Batman and Superman encounter each other, or when they're working with each other, what do you think goes through Batman's mind when he's working with Superman? I mean, obviously, on one hand, he's dealing with basically a big blue Boy Scout. On the other hand, he's essentially working alongside, or sometimes they're fighting against, essentially a Kryptonian powered by the Yellow Sun. So I was just wondering what you think Batman's thought process, or pretty much any other given character's thought process.
I've always thought of Batman as the original MacGyver. He creates everything. He's totally human. His strength is in his imagination and his power to invent tools and think his way out of things. Superman's powers are supernatural. You know, he can see through things, he's got X-ray vision, he can fly, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't have to really think. He doesn't have to think. Batman's powers are totally human, and he's mastered them. So I always think that when I'm in things with Superman, I look at him like, yeah, the big Boy Scout, he's got all those superpowers, but I can think him or into knots. You know what I mean? And I think Batman has a slightly, I think he sees Superman as sort of a Boy Scout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I figured that would be it. The answer on that.
Okay.
What about Robin? How do you think Robin took to Superman?
He doesn't care about Superman at all.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hey, was it difficult to pass down the bat suit to Tilly McGinnis?
That's a good question. Because I felt very weird when Adam West came in to do The Grey Ghost. And I thought, oh, this is going to be really weird, you know. I'm sort of treading on his cake, you know. And he couldn't have been more gracious. He's such a wonderful guy. And he said, I had so much fun doing it. I hope you have as much fun as I have doing it. And then he gave a wonderful performance as the Grey Ghost. And I understood what he meant when I then passed it on to Terry. You just want the next person to have as much fun with it as you had. You know what I mean? And the fact that I got to be the sort of father figure to Terry was gravy, because I got to guide him into the role and supervise his maturing. You know, I loved the relationship we developed in that. So it was a good, very good work.
But now you have the bat suit back.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Back where it belongs.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, for both of you, between Tim Burton's first Batman in the movie universe and then up to Superman versus Batman, is there any of those movies you wish you could have, that would have been animated, that you could have done?
Well, I think the Christopher Nolan movies are the closest in terms of live action to what we did. You know, that sort of noir, dark, serious aspect to it. I know people have problems with Christian Bale's Batman voice, but other than that, I thought they were really, really wonderful.
Who are you?
But having said that, part of the magic of Batman and that whole world is that it is animation. And I don't think any of those movies have come close to Sub-Zero or Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, they haven't.
You know what I mean? It's just where it belongs. So I'd love to see more animated movies made.
And they haven't come up with the definitive on-camera Robin or Nightwing. So,
no.
Yeah, you're the only one.
And he's available.
Thank you.
Hi. I have a question for both of you. My son wants to be a voice actor when he grows up, and he wanted to know how you get started in voice acting.
Wow. Well, there are a lot of different ways into it. It's not, a lot of people I think it's about making funny voices or making funny sounds. It's really about acting. So whenever people ask me, how do you get into the business? I say, well, you take acting classes. And I think the best place to learn acting is in the theater. That's still the best lab to study acting, because that's where the actor's in charge. But it's an incredibly competitive business. It's not exclusively about voice acting anymore. It's much more open now to film and television people and theater people. Everyone wants to do it now. So you're competing against major film stars to get jobs. So it's gotten much harder field to work in. That having been said, it's a wonderful field to work in. There are wonderful people to work with. It's hugely creative. If you do find a niche for yourself, it's very rewarding. So I always just warn people that it's gotten very, very difficult. But it's about acting.
I absolutely concur with what he said. Be an actor first, study acting first. And then when it comes to the skill, there are classes, particularly in Los Angeles, and I assume in New York as well, where they teach you the specific skills of performing in front of a microphone, because it does take a certain skill set that regular actors who don't do it don't have. But I would completely agree that they should go to an acting school and learn to act.
Thank you.
Sure.
He's 5, so, or almost 5,
Well,
so he has time.
He has time. He has like a year or two.
And he's finished.
Of all the Batman villains, which one would you like to see in a live action film that have not yet been in a live action film?
Wow, villains. Harley Quinn is kind of crazy and wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, she was in with the Joker, wasn't she? Or no, was she? That's Harley Quinn? She hasn't been in it yet. Yeah, it's coming up still. Who else?
Has the Clock King been in a movie? I like the Clock King. Crazy. Clayface.
Oh, Clayface. Who was Ron Perlman.
Right.
In our show. The actor Ron Perlman. He was Clayface on our show. We had an incredible cast.
Thank you.
Sure.
And a lot of these people who came in had never done animation before. They were all well-known TV and movie actors. And I remember one particular actor, I won't say who it was, but he came in one day and he was listening to those of us who were in the regular cast, Ephraim Ziblis, and Bob Hastings, and Kevin and I, and he said, "How did you guys learn how to do this?" Which was kind of fun, because now, as Kevin said, almost all TV and film actors have that in their arsenal, doing voiceover acting. But at the time, it was very unusual for them.
Hi, I talked to both of you already.
Yes. Kat.
Yeah, Kat. And I was really starstruck, so I forgot to ask you the questions I had about the craft of acting. I just received my bachelor's in theater performance, and I'm planning on moving on to actually get jobs.
Congratulations.
Not Iowa. Thank you. And I've been told by some professors that probably my best option is to be a character actor. And I wondered if either of you had any advice for, I guess, just a young actor going into this field, but maybe also with character acting specifically, even if there's something else.
Where do you start?
Well, character acting is kind of a broad subject, a broad category is what I'm saying.
It's not helpful when a professor tells you that. So.
Yeah. Maybe what they mean is, somebody who isn't the glamorous male or female lead. But then if you take those two away, the glamorous male and female lead, everybody else is a character.
Everyone else.
So
Exactly.
you're in good shape. You have a big world open for you. But I would say you can only be one of two places, and it's in Los Angeles or in New York. In Los Angeles, it's a lot easier to live because it's warmer and it's cheaper. But there's a lot of work in New York now, tons of television work in New York, and a lot of work in LA. I don't think you could live anywhere else and pursue that.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be in one of those two cities. Oh, I don't know where to... You're right. If you're not in a romantic lead, then you're everything else. And it's all the other work. So when he tells you you're a character actor, that's great. Because there are 1,000 roles you can do. The people who only get pigeonholed in romantic lead, they're kind of screwed. Because 1 in 1,000 get jobs. The others don't get them. It's much more competitive for much fewer roles. Each movie has one romantic lead female, one romantic lead male usually, and then a lot of characters. So that's great. But the thing is, I think, work in the theater. That's where you learn to act.
Oh, yeah. I thought
character?
Like, it doesn't matter if it's character, like a movie or game, whatever.
I wouldn't know where to begin. Me neither. I did. No. I'm sorry. And
Passing it back to you.
That's a tough one. There's such a huge library of stuff. I don't know where to begin. And there's so many.
We'll get back to you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. So, there's always times where you may not agree with how an author's handling a particular comic or story. Like, for instance, sometimes I hate how they make it seem like Batman doesn't even care about his Robins, they're just tools for him, even though we know that's not true.
Oh, that's not true.
Yeah, we do know that's not true. Has there ever been a situation where you're acting and you read the script and you don't really agree that fits your character? Do you have any say in those situations, or is it they just like stick to the script?
There's something
called that Bruce Timm. You would know not to ask that question.
You're talking specifically about our
Has
show.
there ever been a scenario where you're like, man, I don't really feel like this is how Batman would
In this show?
And just in general, when you're in your acting careers as Batman and Robin.
Bruce's actors are famous for their egos, right? Compared to writers and producers, actors are shy. There's a lot of egos, and they know what they want, and they wrote that line that way for a reason. You know, there's a period there for a reason. You get a lot of that. They like the script to be respected. They really do. And to change the script usually takes a lot of negotiating. You've got to have a lot of good reasons. And they might let you, change an and for a but or something like that. You know what I mean? It's very... Hitchcock liked to use actors as pawns. He famously thought of actors as tools. And he seemed cold, and that seemed like a very cold way to deal with actors. But it's really the way most directors and writers want to deal with actors.
And once you get a sense that the producers and the writers have a vision and they know where they're going, you go along with the ride because they can see the overall picture that you can't see. And personally, I don't ever remember a single moment where I said, oh my God, I would never say a line like that. That never happened in that show. But it's happened, dozens of times in many of the on-camera shows that I've done. And a lot of those shows, you maybe get a sense right away, they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know where the show is going. You might have seen a show called Lost. They don't know where it's going. But you as an actor, you simply have to kind of suck it up. Like when I did Gilmore Girls, for example, it was like that. Watch the periods, watch the commas. They wouldn't let you change one single word, but they had a vision how to make that show. And I think you maybe would agree that was a successful vision, as this was our show. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, my question is, Nightwing and Batman are very different in their personalities. Do you think there are ways where Nightwing has strengths that Batman doesn't have? Are there ways where he's even like maybe in certain instances a better hero than Batman?
That's impossible. You don't even have to say anything. I'll answer for him. That's impossible. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I would like to hear Robin here.
I would say, having been a child and having been a father, when you become a father after having been a child, you say, I'm not going to do those things that my parents did. Well, in many cases you can avoid those things, but in many cases you go, oh, I'm acting just like my father. So in a lot of ways he fights as hard as he can to not have those traits that he found so offensive, the heartless traits that he found offensive in Batman. And he
What are you talking about?
Just talking about his perception.
Your perception.
No, Nightwing's perception.
Are erroneous. Damn, being raped.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And thank you guys for your time today. We're going to get you back down to the show floor. If you haven't already done so, visit them at their booth, get an autograph. Des Moines, let's hear it for Loren Lester and Kevin Conroy!